riding down Highway 61. Sides of the roads all lined with fields, nothing but sunset in the windshield. Feel it as soon as I ride into town. This is where I go to slow down. Miles and miles of soybeans and corn. I'm in the place where the blues was born. About a mile from the big muddy river, place I'll always remember. Cabin on the lake and a fishing pole. Forever here I'll rest my soul. I can feel my worries drift away from being out in the sun all day. No matter where in the world I go, I'll always find home on the banks of that oxbow.
What's up, guys? Brad Chappell back at the Grizzly Spring Show 2023. Got myself at this side.
Thought I could be on this end.
Got two
Sam
other cats
Heaton
with us.
in the middle.
Whitey Outlaw.
You know, we got two of the legends of the sport in my mind in the center of us. And, this is a really hot topic, I guess you would say. I see him already shaking his head. And
Hot and kind of touchy.
kind of touchy. But, you know, we want to be honest about it. And just like I'm going to start out the title here, it's going to be good, bad, and ugly of live sonar. And everybody's got their opinions on this, and it's just like anything else. It's an opinion on it. But every bit of it, in my mind, there's good, bad, and ugly. And, you know, for me, I'll go ahead and throw out my three out here pretty quick. The good is it's bringing a new generation of crappie fishermen on here, out there. And it's not being left behind in old ways. The bad is a lot of our other techniques is not as efficient as it used to be. And the ugly for me is it can be a tool that almost abused in certain resources can hurt it. Live sonar can hurt smaller lakes, and that would be the ugliest part for me.
Why do you think it hurts the lake?
Well, I think it could get over harvested really easily.
Over harvested?
The catch ratio, in my mind, in my opinion, and what I've seen, is real high compared to what it used to be. You can eliminate a lot of different factors if you've got live sonar.
So, you know, I agree with everything you said. The good for me is that now we're learning a little bit more about the fish behavior.
Definitely good.
Okay, that's the good. The bad is that, and social media is some to blame, but the bad is I'm tired of hearing people arguing about this and that and this and that has to do with live scope. And the ugly, definitely what you touched on. There's a lot of lakes in Oklahoma, small city lakes.
Yeah.
A lot. You know a lot of them. Everybody in this building knows of a few of them that all of a sudden live sonar, and guess what? We got 3.5 pound crappie in Oklahoma everywhere that we had never knew was there. They're not in our big public waters. Well, what happened is this guy, because he wanted the fame, and not one guy, there was multiple guys, but these guys that wanted that fame, they started putting it out there on social media. And now these lakes, and some of them are very close to where I live, and I've known guys, old timers, that have fished them forever. Guess what? They cannot catch a fish out there. I know a guy that went to one of them, you know, and I can name them by name: McAllister City Lake, Colgate. I mean, y'all. Yeah. If y'all know everybody around my area, you know. I mean, it was unbelievable. There was probably 2 or 3 months where there was more 3-pound fish caught out of Oklahoma than every other state put together, because we all had live scope before, a lot of guys.
Right.
You can go out there right now, and these lakes are big enough to cover in about half a day. And you can have 4 or 5 boats out there, and they can go around it twice in a day, and you can talk to every single one of them, and they'll tell you, I never saw a fish. Never saw a fish, because they're small lakes. Now, will they recover? Sure, because now people will forget about them, and they won't go there. But, but there again, I can play devil's advocate to that, because we're blaming the tool.
Yeah.
We're blaming the gun, not the shooter.
Exactly. And I'm gonna weigh in here just a minute. I went through some of these same discussions, and Whitey will remember it, when the paper graph came out. They said, "Oh, you got to outlaw that thing."
Right.
The paper graphs.
Very accurate. Very accurate.
Very accurate, and we used them bass fishing and crappie fishing. And I heard a lot of the same arguments. But I will say this, if you're hurting a lake that bad with a live scope, they need to put a no catch and release law on that lake. In Florida, we have trophy lakes, and where you cannot keep a bass. It doesn't matter if it's 12 inches or if it's 34 inches. It doesn't matter, because it is a trophy lake. The nature will take care of itself if you don't abuse it.
Yeah.
Length limits, possession limits,
Yep.
game wardens doing their job, people, and make it severe enough, and the judge enforce it enough that they're not going to keep those fish.
Right.
That's right.
And I heard these same arguments. They came to us when I was with ACT. They came to us and said, you got to outlaw live scope. Well, that's not the answer. That's not the answer.
From a tournament stand view, I fished a lot of tournaments over the years. I mean, a lot. All
yeah.
over the country. And was pretty successful with 8 rods pushing out in front. Now, that's gone away. And, I kind of say full circle. Back when we first started, back in the Crappie-thon days, we all started with 1 pole. Then it started 8 rods. Then it started 16 rods, dragging them, pushing them, and pulling them, and crankbaiting for them. And pushing them out the front was a good sport of its own.
Yeah.
Now, we done went all the way around from 1 pole back to 1 pole. And with the tool that you got, there's good parts and bad parts about it. The bad part about it, if you're going to fish a tournament, you best be able to use it, because you ain't going to win it. It's been proven the last 3 or 4 years. None of us guys that I thought we could fish, we may place with a decent bag of fish, but we can't get to that plateau of winning, because these young kids is so good at it. And I'm going to make a comment here that I hope it don't make nobody mad, but if it does, it does. And if it is, you'll know who I'm talking about. If you fish before you got it and it helped you improve your fishing, that's great. But if you did not fish before that, it's made winners out of people that couldn't fish.
Didn't know the basics.
Me and Ronnie Capps have spent many an hour on the water together, fishing against each other, and I would figure I was pretty fair at it, and he was really good at it. There's no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
He's proved that. Now, top 5, most of the times out of sight for us. So it's took a lot of the competitive guys out of the scenario, and it's moved up the younger guys. And am I whining about it a little bit? Yeah, I guess I am, because it's hurt the generation that built this sport. They're backing out of it now because they can't compete. Mm-hmm. But it's also hurt the industry. Just right here at Grizzly today, you watch the bundles of jig poles that we used to see walk out of here. 100 customers a day with 8 rods. You ain't seeing that now. You're seeing 1 rod. Maybe a jig pole, maybe a 16-foot scoping pole, but more casting rods than anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Jack Wells talked yesterday. He said, did you ever think we would live long enough in this sport to see the long pole go away and sell more casting rods? I said, never dreamed it. Mm-hmm. But it's got upsides and downsides. But at the end of the day, If you ask me, I like it. I do not like it. 2 or 3 reasons more is it's a great tool for tournament fishing. It shows us what the fish. We thought we knew what they do. We didn't have a clue really of what they do, because they do now things that we'd have never dreamed of. Swimming off, sitting there, and you know, back years ago, you could just sit there and fish, and you think, well, they ain't biting. Well, they still biting, but they just pull to that side.
Right.
And they get used to that sonar being shot at them. I mean, you pull it around there, it's got to hit that fish to send that signal back. Mm-hmm. And we have trained the fish not to eat when they feel that thumping in the water. That's what we've done on Santee Cooper, on some of our brush. We have trained them fish not to bite.
Not to eat.
You pull up there on a brush that's got 80 fish on it, you may catch 1 or 2. The rest of them either sit there, go down, or swim off. We've trained them that way. When you pull up there with that, they feel it. But on the really bad side, it's took, and we're picking on the big fish. Mm-hmm. If we out there in a school in the middle of the lake chasing single fish, you pull up there, you say, well, that's just a pound fish. Oh, wait a minute, not there, 2. He's better than a pound and a half. That's a 2. That's the one you're going after. That's the one you're going to win money with. And even if you out there just pleasure fishing, you'd heap rather come back to the boat ramp with a cooler 2-pound ones than you do pound. Mm-hmm. So we're picking on the big fish, and it's up to us as sportsmen to release them fish, put them back, not pick on all the big ones. Be a little more selective in what we do. We ain't always got to bring 30 fish out. We can bring 10 or 15 out, enough to eat or whatever, you know.
Yes.
You ain't always got to hit that limit, which that's the male ego in this fishing business. Mm-hmm. Get back to the boat ramp. I mean, the only prizes we get in life is our bragging rights, you know. We may win a trophy, a little money, but the bragging rights is mostly what we're here for. This is what I've been here for, because if it was for the money, I'd have been gone long ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Long ago. But, you know, everybody's got their opinions about it. And me and Sam, we started many, many years back. We were pretty young fellows then.
Really young.
And, you know, and there was a lot of tournaments back then, it was a 20-fish deal.
Yeah.
You had to have 20 fish.
I've heard of even 50 fish.
Yeah, well, the first one I ever won was a 60-fish tournament.
Wow.
Yep, 60 crappie on Santee. But that went away, you know, after about 6, 7 years. We started the 45. Then when crappie-thon rolled along, it was 20. They could be dead. And as the fishing grew, and back then the crappie-thon popped out, we had a lot more teams fishing. I mean, it was bigger tournament, bigger turnouts every weekend. And I could tell the difference in the fish, because it got hard to catch 20 on some lakes.
And, you know, it went down, some states were 10. And, you know, I don't believe in big limits. I don't believe in it, because there's a lot more people fishing now than there used to be fishing. And you've got to preserve, or you've got to protect that school of fish out there. I mean, you know,
any resource like
what would happen if they put a limit on? Our limit at the tournament is 7 fish, and you can have 1 over 3 pounds.
Yeah.
Or 7 fish, and you can have 1 over 2.5 pounds. What would it be then? You know, protect those spawning fish, because the big ones are the ones that spawn. But like I say, it's the game's changed, you know, and crappie fishing, the tournaments have really helped the game to change. But I'm a firm believer, you don't have to spend $250,000 to go fishing.
Oh, you can. On Santee Cooper, I fished 99% of my time in a 14-foot War Eagle with a 25 Suzuki.
What did we fish in Okeechobee when you were down there and we did that show
and
together?
A little old flat-bottom boat.
A little flat-bottom boat with one motor. Didn't even have a trolling motor.
Old ways still work too, don't they?
Yes, sir.
The old ways, you know, that's the way we were raised on Santee to fish and paddle around them trees and stuff. And it's gone away some, but I try to keep it going on our TV show and stuff, Father and Son Outdoors. I try to do the old stuff, but, you know, Mother Nature will take care of itself. It'll get muddy, and the wind will blow, and storms, and the fish, cold fronts will shut them off. So Mother Nature will take care of itself. But every screw-up on this earth with depleting stuff, whether it's the mountains melting out or the ice glaciers, it's man-made.
Yeah.
Man-made.
We dabble in too much crap. and messes up everything. I mean, man will screw up everything, but man can also protect it. And I know it's a wishful thinking, but it would tickle me to death if the month of March, nationwide, you couldn't keep a 2-pound female. 30 days out the year, nationwide, you would be surprised how many more fish we'd have in every fishery.
Yep.
Leaving them big females there, them big roe hens to lay. 2 pounds and above, throw them back, let them lay.
I'd even be good if we had an off season.
Yeah, March would be a good off season. I tell you why, because that's your spawning month. Let it
Especially
go.
these lakes that are
Heavily fished.
I mean, they do it up north with, there's months up there where you can't walleye fish.
Yeah. Stripers, same way.
You can fish, but you can't keep them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you can't target certain species.
Right now on Santee Cooper, the stripers is fair, but they want it better, so we got a season on the upper and lower lake. Some months you can't fish, some months you can. You got to be a slot limit if you keep them. But anyway, it wouldn't hurt me for them to say, okay, month of March, all males, no females in the boat. That'd suit me fine.
Yeah.
In 5 years, you would see a dramatic change in the numbers of fish.
I think it's just like the fishing industry has changed so radically because of live sonar. I think that this technology not only made us tournament fishermen change at a really high rate, it's going to force these Department of Wildlife and Fisheries to catch up and change just as fast to stay ahead of this.
I hope they do.
I hope they do, too.
The issue that we've seen in Oklahoma, it's like what I was talking about, that small lake, and you said, well, they need to do this. Well, by the time then, they're reactive. They're not proactive. It's too late. It's done.
Yeah.
It might recover. If they were to do that, it might recover in 10 or 15 years, but that's a long time for guys our age to sit around and wait.
I ain't got that much longer left. But I'll tell you one thing we did do at Weiss Lake. It really helped our fishing when we used to be one of the most popular crappie fishing lakes in the country.
Capital,
we stocked those black-nosed crappie.
Yep.
And they wouldn't reproduce, so you really wasn't endangering the natural species, but it gave it made a lot of money for the community.
Took a lot of pressure off the real fish.
Yes.
The natural fish.
Yes.
But you got a lot of states that don't have a stocking program. Santee, they don't stock. What a lot of these guys don't realize that somewhere on these lakes, 90% of them, there's a powerhouse.
Yep.
Main goal is to make power. They don't care if you never catch a fish. And you got biologists that come out of these colleges with these degrees that claim to know everything, but there's a lot of them I don't think know nothing.
I don't have a lot of confidence.
I don't have no confidence in most of them because I've lived there over 50 years on that water. I've seen it from the good to the times it was great to the times it was thin, back to good. About a 7-year cycle. You know what the old guys say.
Yep.
Every lake's got a 7-year cycle. And it's to the point now we got more people fishing. We can't wait 7 years a cycle or we hurting ourselves. And I mean, my son guides full time. He takes customers 6 days a week. They bring 40 out every day.
Yeah.
And they stop. As soon as they hit 40, the 2-man limit, he comes home.
Right.
He says, if I could fish to dark, he says, it's unreal.
Yeah.
Some days.
Yeah.
And it's all live scope because that's the easiest way to guide. Nobody wants to go sit with 8 rods no more or troll. They just don't want to do it. They want to go see that live scope, watch that fish bite that hook.
Yeah.
And it is a cool way of fishing. I ain't gonna knock it because I do it. But in these tournaments, me and you can't compete with them like we used to.
No.
Used to be we could walk into a seminar room and they'd say, I got to beat that one and that one. That one. Now we walk in, they say, he's a has-been to get that one.
That's right.
He's a never will be.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Like Hayden Jeffries. I mean, he's walking on water now, guys.
He's hammering it.
And am I against him? Nope. I'm for him because he's a young guy doing a sport that he loves. He's on the same token. Them guys like that are bad for business. Tournament business. When I say that, I don't mean it to hurt their feelings or be against them by no means. I'm just saying, when these guys walk in, is Jeffries here? Yep. I ain't fishing. I'm going home. I can't beat him.
Yeah.
Me being competitive all my life, I'm gonna say, well, he got to beat me. Someday I might get him. So that gives me a drive But the only bad thing about it, my drivetrain about wore out. I mean, if I was 30 years old, I'd say, okay.
Your tires is getting slick, Whitey.
Nothing but the belt showing. But I'm telling you, if I were 30 years younger, I'd tell him every time I see him, I said, oh boy, you might beat me, but you're going to have to. I ain't gonna give it to you.
I ain't gonna give it to you.
You're going to have to grind to get it. Don't look up a little.
You know, I think these guys, I hear some comments and it's just all anti-live scope. And like this whole thing is, there's good to it.
It is.
There's going to be bad to
That's
it.
right.
And there's going to be the ugly even side to it. Mm-hmm. But there's just not a whole complete one-sided picture when it comes to live sonar, in my opinion.
When these guys used to first come to Santee Cooper and pull, back then at Crappie-thon, you could pull 16 rods.
Wow.
They throw 16 rods. Tight line. 12 out the front, 12 out the back. The local people like to die. Man, they gonna kill our fishery.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't kill it. But I found out right quick with one pole paddling around trees, I couldn't compete. So I had to get on board with that.
That's exactly right.
And then everything started coming, you know, side imaging, and then we got the 360. I said, oh Lord, we got something now. This is good. And it was great.
Yeah.
And then what, 12 months or so after that thing was out, boom, here come this monster. It's turned the world around. And that's
In tournament fishing.
in tournament fishing. And that's what we buy boats for when we go fishing, to catch fish. It's a tool. You can look at it being a mean tool, a good tool, but it's there. The only thing we got to do as people, instead of bringing 60 out every day, get you 30 or 40, go home. And if you don't need fish, throw them back. I have not in over 12 or 15 years been out of town fishing a tournament that I took a fish home.
Yeah.
I just don't take them. I throw them all back. Every one of them, I catch enough at home to do what I need to do.
Right.
So we got help to some
I think
point.
anglers as well, we've got to take our own responsibility what we do.
That's it.
You know, and then it's kind of like if you live in an area and you see a lake that's getting hurt, to me it's not, you just can't say, well, that's the Department of Wildlife's job. Well, if they don't really know about it, or you've got to make sure you let them know. And that's the personal side of it to me is, and I've done it, and I will continue to do it, is you've got to relay and kind of depend on these resources that our tax dollars are being funded for, and tell them what's going on.
The hardest thing in the sports world, I know you've been there, and we've talked about it many times, is when them fish are smoking, to back off of them.
Yeah.
Or if the ducks are pulling in on a set of decoys, shoot your 6 and go home.
Shoot those ducks and go
I
home.
said, are you insane? I come to hunt.
Yeah.
I come
No.
to shoot.
No.
Well,
No.
them days are gone. Well, it used to be like that back in the 70s. I mean, we've all done probably some wrong
When we were
deals.
fishing for subsistency and hunting for subsistency, that was part of the game.
That's it.
Because we were eating and living on that stuff.
And, you know, still, like me and you talked earlier today, quail, dove, duck, deer, fish, if I didn't eat it, I wouldn't hunt it.
I wouldn't hunt it.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't shoot nothing if I
No,
did
sir.
not eat it. So, you know.
Yeah, same thing.
And there's a lot of people that hunt just to be killing. And that's their sport. I ain't got nothing against them. It just ain't me. You know. But
If I kill it, catch it, take it home, I clean it and eat it.
and you don't invite nobody.
But my wife's a good cook and I don't want to share it.
Well, thank you guys for coming on today. I know
Enjoyed
it's going to
it.
be a really good subject, and you guys are going to have a lot of opinions on this one. Shoot them in the comments how you feel about it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like anything else. There's got to be good, bad, and ugly, but
You know, I know we've talked a lot about the tournament fishing, but let's all keep in mind the future of the sport.
That's
right.
it. That's the
The
main
future
thing.
of the sport. And Todd, it was a pleasure to meet you. First time you and I have ever had any opportunity to
Wow.
speak to each other.
Yeah.
Whitey, like my brother.
From another mother.
Well, I don't know. Alabama ain't too far from South Carolina.
My daddy drove a lot.
My daddy drove a lot.
No, I've been friends with this gentleman many years.
Many years and
Many
enjoyed
years,
it.
and
Two
And
cats
enjoy
of the
it.
sport.
But like he said, take care of the sport, Take the old people fishing and hunting. Take all the kids fishing and hunting, and look after the vets. 'Cause we wouldn't have nothing
Amen.
if it wasn't for
For
them.
them, that's exactly
Yes, sir.
right.
Somebody bled somewhere in another country for us to have what we have today.
That's a great saying,
Think
Whitey.
about it.
All
Think
right.
about it.
Till next time, you got Brad Chappell here.
Whitey Outlaw.
Sam Heaton.
Todd Huckabee.
Holla.
About a mile from the big muddy river, a place I'll always remember. Cabin on the lake and a fishing pole. Forever here I'll rest my soul. I can feel my worries drift away.